The ancient survival rule that saved millions. A scream cuts through the darkness. Not human. Something massive. The fire is dying. Embers collapse into ash. Around the dying flames, shadows stretch and twist across stone walls. A child huddles against her mother. The warmth is gone. The cold is coming. Outside the cave, something moves through the brush. Heavy. Deliberate. A saber-toothed cat. Hungry. The tribe has maybe minutes. But here's what saved them. What saved millions of humans across thousands of years. Not a weapon. Not luck. Something far more powerful. Something that changed everything about how humans survived. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't strength. It was a rule. A single behavioral law that separated the living from the dead. And it all started with a decision made in absolute darkness. 50,000 years before civilization existed, survival wasn't about being the strongest. It wasn't about being the fastest or the smartest. It was about one thing: information. Who knew what, when they knew it, and whether they told anyone else. The tribe that kept secrets died. The tribe that shared knowledge lived. This is the rule that archaeologists call collective memory. But it wasn't written down. It wasn't formal. It was something far simpler and far more deadly. It was the rule of telling the story, over and over again. Watch this. A young hunter named Kale returns to the camp. His spear is broken. His shoulder is bleeding. He's been attacked. The tribe gathers close. They need to know what happened, because what happened to Kale might happen to them. So Kale tells the story. He describes the location, the time of day, the behavior of the animal, the sound it made before it charged, the exact moment he knew he was going to die. The tribe listens. They don't interrupt. They ask questions. They repeat parts back. They commit every detail to memory. Why? Because the next hunter who goes to that location will remember. The next hunter will recognize that sound. The next hunter will know the exact moment to move. And that knowledge might keep him alive. But here's the part that changed everything. Kale tells this story not just once. He tells it again and again, at different times, to different people, to the young hunters who haven't hunted yet, to the children, to the elders. And then something remarkable happens. The tribe begins to tell Kale's story without Kale. They repeat it. They embellish it slightly. They add details they imagine. And through repetition, through telling and retelling, the information becomes permanent. It becomes tribal knowledge. It becomes survival. Archaeologists found evidence of this in cave paintings, not just pictures, patterns. The same images painted over and over, in the same locations, for thousands of years. Generation after generation painting the same hunts, the same animals, the same dangers. Why would they do that? Because repetition was survival. Forgetting was death. The tribe that told stories survived. The tribe that didn't tell stories forgot. And the tribe that forgot made the same mistakes, again and again, until they died out. This is why humans developed language the way we did. Not for philosophy, not for poetry, not for love or art or any of the things we think of as uniquely human. Language evolved as a survival mechanism, a way to encode and transmit deadly information across time. But there's more to this rule. It wasn't just about telling stories, it was about who you told them to. And that's where things get complicated. In a tribe of 40 people, everyone knows everything. But tribes grow. They split. They migrate. And suddenly, you have groups that don't share information. Groups that don't know the dangers the other group knows. Groups that make fatal mistakes because they don't have access to collective knowledge. So a new rule emerged. Travelers, messengers, people who move between tribes. They became the keepers of information. They carried stories from one group to another. They were the living libraries of human knowledge. And they were protected, valued, sometimes even sacred. Archaeological evidence shows us something striking. In sites separated by hundreds of miles, we find the same tools, the same techniques, the same solutions to the same survival problems. How did knowledge travel that far without writing, without trade routes, without civilization, through messengers, through storytellers, through people who traveled and shared what they knew? A tribe in the north learns how to preserve meat through smoking. The technique saves them during harsh winters. A traveler from the south hears the story. He travels home and teaches it. Within a generation, tribes across a continent are smoking meat. Populations that would have starved now survive. This rule, the rule of sharing information, of telling stories, of making knowledge collective, it didn't just save individuals. It saved populations. It prevented extinction. It allowed humans to spread across the planet. But here's the dark side of the rule. Information can be a weapon. A tribe discovers a new hunting ground, rich with game, abundant with resources. But they don't share this information. They keep it secret. They hunt there alone, and they thrive. For a while, but other tribes notice. They see the hunters returning fat and satisfied. They follow them. They discover the hunting ground. And now there's conflict, war, death. The tribe that kept the secret dies anyway. They just die fighting. The tribes that shared information, that integrated knowledge, that built networks of mutual understanding, they survived longer. They adapted faster. They spread further. This is why the most successful human groups weren't the most isolated. They were the most connected, the tribes that traded, the tribes that shared stories, the tribes that sent messengers and received them. Anthropologists call this cultural exchange. But it was really just the oldest rule of survival, applied on a larger scale. Share what you know or die ignorant. By 10,000 years ago, this rule had shaped human civilization. Tribes that didn't share information with their neighbors were conquered or forgotten. Tribes that did share became the foundation of the first cities, the first empires, the first civilizations. Writing didn't create this rule. It just made it permanent. The rule had been operating for 50,000 years before the first word was ever written down. But here's what's truly remarkable. This rule saved millions of lives. But it also created something unexpected. It created culture, tradition, art, religion, all of the things that make us human. Because once you start telling stories, once you start sharing information, you don't just share survival data. You share meaning, you share values, you share dreams. The hunter who tells his story isn't just transmitting information about a dangerous animal. He's also transmitting courage, resilience, the idea that you can face death and survive, that you can tell about it afterward. The tribe that gathers to listen isn't just learning facts. They're learning identity. They're learning who they are. They're learning what they value. This is why every human culture, no matter how isolated, no matter how different, has storytelling. Every culture has ritual. Every culture has shared knowledge passed down through generations. Because this rule, the rule of telling and sharing, it's not just about survival. It's about what makes survival meaningful. When that saber-toothed cat prowled outside the cave 50,000 years ago, the tribe's survival depended on fire, on tools, on shelter. But their long-term survival, the survival of their entire species, depended on something else. It depended on the child listening to the stories, on her remembering them, on her telling them to her children, on those stories spreading to other tribes, on the knowledge accumulating across generations. It depended on the rule that information shared is information multiplied. And that rule didn't just save that tribe, it saved human civilization itself. Because the moment humans figured out how to share what they knew, how to make knowledge collective, how to pass wisdom across time and space, that was the moment we stopped being just another animal struggling to survive. That was the moment we became human.